Hey there, this is Al, the doo-wopper. Okay, we're going to be talking about a gentleman of the day that you probably have heard of. He was quite a guy doing the rock and roll in the 1950s. This is where we are going today. And the name of the guy we're going to be talking about, his name is Richard Wayne Penniman. Okay, and now his stage name, I think you will know his name is Little Richard. Quite a character, Little Richard. Little Richard came up in Macon, Georgia, and he was born December and the 5th in 1932. And so he was a guy that he was small because they called him Little Richard because he was very small. He's a very small individual, and really, he got one leg was really shorter than the other. But anyway, he came up during a time in the 50s where everything was a lot of poverty and a lot of problems and races and everything. We had lots of problems during that time. But anyway, he was third in 12 children, and his father was a deacon in AME Church, and back in the day, and so, but he was it said he had a nightclub. No, he had a joint. Because blacks didn't have one night joint in Macon, Georgia. He had a joint. That's about all we could have back in those. And anyway, he run a joint back in those days, and also, to make money and whatnot, he was a bootlegger. He made moonshine. So and his mother was Eva Mae. So she was. She played the piano in the church, and he grew up in singing in the church. And the biggest problem they had with him, he was loud. He was loud, and he would squall and all of this stuff. And sometimes they called him the Hulk, the squalling Hulk, because he just had a real loud voice. And so that's when he came up in the church most of the time. They had to settle him down and tell him, hey, but you got to keep it down. So, but anyway, when he came up, it was said, but I didn't remember that, but I read that he did, his father didn't particularly like him because he had the gay mannerism, and his father didn't like that too much, and he kind of harassed him to a point where he left. When he was in the 10th grade, he left, and so he left home, and so that's when he really got started out there, and trying to be discovered and everything. And he was a very young person, and he sold Coca-Colas and everything at convents and everything else. But he really Rosetta Thorpe was one of his favorites. He really liked her, and he really sang a lot of her songs and all that. And so she heard him sing one of her songs once, and she actually paid him, when he was singing one of her songs. So, and there was another one, Mahalia Jackson. Now, he really liked her. See, but I tell you, he was a religious person when he was in the young days, but he didn't know really what he wanted to do. So, because he wanted to hear the rock and roll, and then he liked the gospel. So he was going both ways. He was tossed back and forth, seemed like, and that's what made him so interesting. That's one reason why I found him so interested that I decided that I was going to do his history because, see, I knew about him when he was coming up as well. Okay. So when he first started coming up, I knew all about him. And because, I was like all the guys and everything else. I could sing a little bit, so I wanted to be a rock and roll guy and all this stuff. Everybody, all the kids, they could sing a little bit. Always wanted to be a rock star. You know how that is. So that he wanted it, and he worked hard toward to get it, and so all the joints and whatnot that he was singing in, and he had a band they called, I think, the Upsetters, and they would go to one area to the other, and they were singing these joints, and you can call them clubs you want to. I call them more of a joints than anything else because back in the day in Georgia, North Carolina, oh boy, Alabama, all those places, the blacks, all we had basically that I can remember was juke joints and things like that. So I think that was about all that he had. But anyway, his brothers was, even right now, you're talking about 12 mouths to feed. And his brothers, they went out and they worked. And the father was a bootlegger. He had a joint and everything else to make ends meet. But Richard had other plans. So his father eventually told him, he's more into the rock and roll, and he just said, this ain't gonna work with me. So he was in the 10th grade really when they decided to well, he didn't decide. His father told him he had to go. But, this is what Richard says. But I don't know. I don't remember. It seemed like to me that he was pretty smart. So whether he left or come back or not, I don't know. But he did end up finishing school. So I know that much. So how he finished, whether he come back home or not, I'm not absolutely sure. But anyway, he grew up and more, he got more and more involved into the rock and roll. And so with his band, like I said, the Upsetters, the bands and whatnot, they wasn't doing too well. So he just kind of like quit. We started washing dishes at a Greyhound bus station, and so he was just making it any way he possibly could make it. So, but this is just give you some of the life that where he has first started out, and but he still had the gay mannerism that his parents, any of them didn't, any of his brothers and sisters didn't particularly like him. So he's kind of like he was kind of pushed out a lot, and so he really didn't know which way to go. I know to say they got split personalities. I don't know. Seemed like to me, I don't know. If there's such thing as three, I believe he was it, because right now, as we study and more, we're gonna talk about the history of Little Richard. You'll find out more and more about him. For the first song that he had was, it was a big hit, and so we're gonna be going through that. And the name of the song, to me, I wasn't crazy about his music because I believe in I like the doo-wops, the one that say I love you, I'm heartbroken, and all of this. But Little Richard did not sing that type of song. He sang the song to me that didn't sound kind of like ridiculous. Tutti Frutti. It's number one hit, for example. What is Tutti Frutti? I don't even know what that is. But guess what? His music, everything, psh, he went. That was his first big hit. But anyway, this is just give you a background of how Little Richard came up, and the next part, part two, gonna be more of his life and what he accomplished, and how well he crossed over the race lines and everything else. The white loved his music, and all of this here, how he changed over from getting married and the lifestyle that he lived all his life until his end. So you stay tuned and you listen, and we're gonna really learn something together, and we're gonna have his history of Little Richard. And so subscribe, and it's gonna be a part two and maybe part three. Have a good night.